Good morning. On behalf of everybody at Independent Coach Education, my name's Paul Bond. Some of you may remember me from EVC training and conferences in the past. I work with Andy in the payloads part of the organisation, and we'll talk more about that later. One of the things we were thinking about is some updates on trips and tours going forwards and the new reality that we find ourselves in. So where are we as of today? The FCO has advised against all foreign travel, unless it's absolutely essential. DFE have said that future trips can be planned, so that's a positive. And we know, and I'm certainly aware, that many schools are in difficult conversations with tour operators and providers around existing bookings, deferments, refunds of deposits, and those kind of things. Please understand that a lot of these providers are also in severe financial strain, so taking a deferment may be preferable to seeking a full refund that may well stop that operator trading, but each case is to be treated on its own merits. Some of the things looking forward might be that some operators will cease trading. We've already had a couple of people pull out of the school travel market in the last week or so who are winding down their operations going forward. Some airlines we think will cease trading. Some are in very precarious positions at the moment. We know that insurers are looking at their exclusions and that they might implement additional ones or larger excesses going forward. So another thing to consider. Travel costs, probably in the short term when airlines get up and running, and there'll be some bargains out there, but over time, perhaps the days of cheap travel by air are over. Some might say that's a good thing, but if you're a school tour operator, it certainly isn't. We're also in a situation where some countries may not welcome tourism for a significant time, especially from countries that don't have the COVID-19 outbreak under sufficient control for them to allow you in. But one thing, as a kind of additional layer of complexity above all that, is that the EU entry and health insurance requirements for non-Schengen, non-EU countries may be onerous post-2020. We hope that the UK will be in some kind of common travel area to enable people to go back and forth on tourist type activities pretty unhindered. The other one option might be that there's some kind of ESTA type arrangement where you buy, for a small fee, people buy a visa that's got a 3-year validity so you can come and go. If not, the worst case scenario would be people having to apply in person at consulates for countries they intend to travel through or stay in the EU. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Issues in the UK, as we know, current requirements for local distancing, pressures on healthcare. Tourists not welcome signs, a lot of statements, certainly from the lakes and Cornwall and places like that, where they've got pretty, basic's the wrong word, but healthcare arrangements that involve people having to travel to big cities for A&E departments, then there's a feeling there that lots of visitors all of a sudden will put them under an intolerable strain. We've got, going forward, if we're talking about school trips, we've got reluctant parents obviously concerned about the welfare of their children. We've got governing bodies and teaching staff obviously concerned about their own welfare as well, and governing bodies considering both those issues. So certainly some things to talk about and think about going forward. Right, and there's a few conversations with DFE people in the last couple of weeks or so about when do you think we'll be able to get up and running? Well, that's a bit unknowable. My forecast is that in September, we'll be talking about dates from September onwards. There is lots of flexibility in the scheme. You can extend activity right through the year if you use indoor accommodation, and I'll return to that little topic later on about our schools may be able to help each other in that regard. So, are there some opportunities here? Well, there could be. Could we look at running self-led trips and tours so we are in control of the controllables, the airline tickets, the accommodation, etc., etc. Obviously more work, and obviously some risks involved in that. If it goes awry, the arrangements, then it's the school needs to sort them out, not a tour operator. So there's a balance to be struck there. Depends on your confidence, your experience, and the willingness of the school to be exposed to those kind of risks. Looking at green alternatives to travel. Can we go there by train? Do we need to travel that far to do that activity? Could we look at some creative solutions? If we are going to travel to somewhere and book, say, an outdoor pursuit centre as an accommodation venue, could we maximise the use of it? Could we have an adventure week followed by a geography field trip? Or could an adventure week be going on for 1 year group while somebody else is doing their geography field trip? Lots of options around things like that. Going back to that D&E topic I touched on earlier, boarding schools that are in rural locations, could they offer hard-lying accommodation in halls and etc. to support the overnight section of D&E awards if they want to operate, let's say, in the November or January timeframes? So a kind of thing there. Could they offer weekend hosting as well for activities? So effectively turning your, we've got Monday to Friday boarders, turning that accommodation into a kind of hostel for visiting schools. So some options there. Is this an opportunity to look at the school co-curricular offer? We're obviously in our sector, it's often the co-curricular offer that parents and students weigh very, very well in how they choose their school. So obviously it's important to us to have a co-curricular offer up and running as soon as possible, and it to be of high quality. Some essentials for us as EVCs and visit leaders in schools. Lots of people have fallen foul of this, certainly one a couple of weeks ago. If you are using an external provider and they're in a bonding scheme, such as ATO and ABTA, do check that they're a current member. Current members are on the ATO and ABTA websites. Don't rely on the assurance of the provider, and don't rely on a logo on the bottom of the letter. Do read the small print, the boring bit about deposits, refund clauses, exclusions. If you need to seek professional advice for someone who's an expert in contract law, it's very worthwhile. Do make sure there's an audit trail of correspondence. Recollections of telephone calls are inadequate. Emails, read receipts are very important should there be an issue further down the line. And that includes correspondence with parents about such things as monetary transactions and medical information. If we're planning a trip, we're going to need a high standard of risk assessment going forward, especially around the health and hygiene issues. And obviously the trip planning needs to include all those things we've talked about using a suitable provider. Build as much flexibility into the arrangements as possible regarding venues, dates and programs. Do discuss with providers what if. I mean, I've seen a few ski operators for the forthcoming season offering easy relocation of venues should there be an issue, let's say in one valley and there's a lockdown, they can move you to another resort, either in the same country or to another one by a complimentary coach transfer. So there are some things there that when you're talking to a provider that maximise your flexibility around dates, etc. and programs. Parental information, how the school got itself in some quite difficult situations around what they said, or perhaps more importantly, what they didn't say to parents about the upcoming trip. So information needs to be clear and comprehensive. As a kind of example, if you don't say that deposits are non-refundable, guess what? They're refundable under all circumstances. And lastly, to conclude, we're here for you. We're going to relaunch PALOS, Professional Association of Leaders of Outdoor Education in Schools, aimed at the EVC and trip leader, but also directors of sport are welcome to subscribe to that service. High quality team behind that, experienced advisors, some good legal people who specialise in school and insurance law. Martin Cheshire, as we all know, ex-director of Plassie Brennan. So a high-powered team to get some information out to you about the latest and most important things happening in matters that concern us. We will be offering, as we do, our EVC training opportunities. Who knows, for the future, they may be done remotely by some kind of e-conferencing facility. But also remember, subscribing to our services does get you high quality OE advice, training and trip proposal services. As you're already in our network, we can offer them to you at preferential rates. So don't forget, we are there to help support you in all kinds of consultancy ways. We will be carrying out our usual set of conferences and networking opportunities, maybe remotely, all pretty uncertain at the moment, but we're modelling up various options that might work and the pros and cons of each one. Don't forget as well, if you're looking to recruit a member of staff, director of sports, head of outdoor education, compliance, whatever, do speak to Neil and his team at Independent Coach Education, as their recruitment service enjoys an excellent reputation of placing the right person in the right situation. So don't hesitate to use that service. Lastly, and some good news, for those who have attended my EVC training recently, we referred to a judgment of Barclays Bank using a third provider. They were using it for medical screening. What's Barclays Bank got to do with schools? Well, it was quite a tight judgment in that it did affect the liability of schools if they used a third-party provider. Fortunately, it's gone to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court have significantly rode back on what that judgment meant, and it's been quite clear that third-party liability isn't as onerous as it once were. We've got Leanne Koenigsby from Clyde, the solicitors, working on a bulletin on that, so that if you subscribe to our newsletter, you'll get chapter and verse on what it means for us in schools. But it's a very positive development. So that's about it from me today. Do get in touch with us should you need any help. We're here, as we say, to help you. Everybody keep safe. Everybody do have a good time. Bye.